The millionaire who forgot how to love until she reminded him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, it is free, and it is the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain had been falling over Manhattan since late afternoon, a steady curtain of silver that softened the glow of streetlights and washed the busy avenues into blurred streams of gold and gray. On most nights, Adrian Hale would have still been in his office on the 31st floor, surrounded by spreadsheets, silence, and the kind of loneliness that felt almost disciplined. But tonight, for reasons he could not fully name, he left early. Not to meet anyone, not to attend an event. He simply stepped outside, letting the cold air sting his lungs as if it could wake something inside him that had been long asleep. He walked without direction, his polished shoes tapping against the wet pavement. The rain grew stronger, pushing him to look for shelter. That was when he saw it, a small flower shop wedged between a bookstore and a quiet cafe. Its warm lights spilled onto the sidewalk like a gentle invitation. Adrian hesitated. Flowers were not a part of his life. He did not send them, he did not keep them, and he certainly did not step into places that smelled like sunshine and springtime. And yet, something tugged at him. He reached for the door. A soft chime rang when he stepped inside. The world instantly shifted. The scent of fresh tulips filled the room, warm, sweet, and almost nostalgic. Buckets of flowers lined the walls, painted in hues of pink, yellow, lavender, and white. The air felt alive in a way that startled him. And then he saw her. Elena Hart stood at the center of the shop, gently arranging a bouquet of yellow tulips. She lifted her head when she heard the door. Her smile was quiet, unforced, and sincere. The kind of smile that did not demand anything from him, simply acknowledged his presence. Her brown hair fell softly around her shoulders, but what drew his eyes were the earrings she wore, small tulip-shaped pieces of gold that glimmered under the warm light. A strange, inexplicable sensation rose in his chest. He had seen that image before. Not recently, not clearly, but somewhere in a half-forgotten memory, in a place where warmth had once lived before being drowned by loss. "Welcome," she said gently. "You look like you need a moment out of the rain." Ed. Her voice matched the atmosphere, calm, warm, and strangely grounding. Adrian cleared his throat, unsure of why he felt suddenly out of place in his own skin. "I just needed somewhere to wait out the weather," he replied. "You are safe here," she said. "Sometimes the rain pushes us into the right doorway." He almost smiled. Almost. Instead, he watched her hands as she lifted a single tulip from the bucket. She offered it to him, holding it like a quiet gesture of peace. "This one is called a golden embrace," she said. "Tulips have a way of carrying warmth. People usually pick them when their hearts have been cold for a long time." Her words struck a small silent chord inside him. He accepted the flower without understanding why. Maybe it was the softness in her tone. Maybe the rain had washed away his usual defenses. Or maybe, though he would never admit it aloud, he felt something shift inside him the moment he saw her tulip earrings glimmer beneath the shop lights. For the first time in years, he felt seen. Not as the millionaire, not as the executive, but as a man standing in the rain, unsure of how he had arrived at this exact doorway, at this exact moment. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, the warmth of the flower shop wrapped around him like a quiet reminder that some places still held gentleness. Adrian did not know it yet, but this single step into her little flower shop would become the moment that changed everything. The moment when a man who had forgotten how to love would take his first breath toward remembering. The rain continued outside as Adrian stood in the soft glow of the flower shop, holding the single yellow tulip she had placed in his hand. He could feel the warmth of it through his palm, as if the flower itself carried something living. There was a quiet hum in the room, a stillness that made him feel strangely grounded. Elena moved toward the counter, wiping a bit of dew from a glass vase. She did not rush him. She did not try to impress him. She simply existed with the kind of gentle presence that made silence feel comfortable instead of awkward. "You come from the business district," she said softly, not as a question, but as an observation. Adrian blinked. "How did you know?" She offered a small smile. "Your shoes. They are polished, but they are wet only on the sides. That means you walked, but not very far. People who work in other parts of the city are soaked from head to toe on a night like this. He looked down at his shoes, then back at her, surprised by her accuracy. And your shoulders, she added. People who work in high-pressure environments carry their tension here. She motioned to her own shoulders with a gentle touch. You walked in with weight you did not even notice. For a moment, Adrian forgot how to form a response. Most people saw him as a symbol of wealth, success, or intimidation. No one looked at him and spoke as if they understood something beneath the surface. Elena turned away, adjusting the flowers on display. I used to help my mother with this shop. She said people reveal their stories without speaking. He felt an unusual tightness in his chest. Nut pine. Just something unfamiliar. Something he had not felt in far too long. He watched her quietly, noticing the way the tulip earrings swayed when she moved. The small golden petals caught the light and shimmered like tiny pieces of sunrise. A part of him wanted to ask where she had gotten them, why they looked so familiar, why they tugged at a memory he could not fully reach. But the words stayed stuck in his throat. Instead, he found himself asking, "Do you enjoy working here?" Elena looked up, surprised by the question. "I do. Flowers remind me that even fragile things can survive storms." Her answer lingered in the air between them. It was not poetic for the sake of being poetic. It was genuine. Adrian glanced around the shop. He noticed the worn edges of the counter, the hand-painted sign above the door, the little notes tucked into the corners with scribbles from customers. This place meant something to her. Something real. And for a brief moment, he wished he had a place that felt like this, a place where warmth did not have to be earned. The rain began to soften outside. Elena looked toward the window. The weather is calming down. You might be able to head home soon. Home. The word struck him in an unexpected way. His penthouse was luxurious, immaculate, and cold. It was not home. It was a place he slept, not a place he belonged. He looked back at her. "What about you? Do you close soon?" "In a little while," she replied. "I like staying until the rain settles. The flowers listen better when it is quiet." He almost smiled again. She said things that would sound strange coming from anyone else, but from her, they sounded sincere and comforting. He set the tulip gently on the counter. "Thank you. For the flower. For the shelter." Elena nodded, folding her hands lightly. "You look like someone who needed a moment. Sometimes that is all we really need." He turned toward the door, feeling the weight of the evening shift inside him. Before he stepped out, he looked back one last time. The soft lights illuminated her silhouette as she arranged a new bouquet of tulips, her earrings blinking like tiny stars. As he walked into the cooling air, he realized something simple but undeniable. He wanted to return. Not because of the rain, not because of the flower, but because, for the first time in years, standing in that little shop had made him feel something other than numb. And deep within him, beneath layers of loss and buried memories, something warm began to stir. A quiet recognition that the woman with the tulip earrings had touched a part of him he thought was gone forever. The next morning, Manhattan returned to its usual rhythm. Traffic hummed through the streets, people rushed across crosswalks with coffee in hand, and the city moved with the unstoppable force it was known for. But for Adrian Hale, something was different. He woke with an unusual thought lingering in his mind, a quiet echo of warmth from the night before. He told himself it was nothing. He told himself he was simply tired, or distracted, or thrown off by the storm. But as he stood by the tall windows of his office overlooking the skyline, he found his thoughts drifting back to a small flower shop with warm lights and tulips arranged in delicate rows. He remembered the way she had spoken to him, not as a billionaire, not as a name in the business world, but as a person. By late afternoon, the memory had settled too strongly to ignore. Without telling his assistant or his board, Adrian stepped out of the building and walked a few blocks to her shop. The bell chimed again when he opened the door, and for a moment he felt that same shift in the air, the calm he had felt only once before. Elena looked up from the counter. Her smile was soft, a little surprised, but welcoming. "You came back." He nodded, unsure of what words should follow. He had made 1,000 decisions in his life, decisions that moved millions of dollars, decisions that shaped markets. But standing here, he felt strangely unprepared. "I wanted to thank you again," he said finally, "and I wondered if you might help me with something." She tilted her head, curious. What do you need help with? The question made him pause. He almost did not know how to answer. But he thought about the empty lobby of Hale Foundation, the cold marble floor, and the way visitors often walk through its doors with tension etched into their faces. The place lacked warmth. The place lacked life. I want to add flowers to our foundation building, he said. Something that brings color. Something people can feel the moment they walk in. Elena blinked, surprised but thoughtful. Flowers can change a space. They can change a mood, too. That is what I want, he replied. She considered him for a moment, as though reading something deeper than his request. If you really want to bring warmth to a place that has been cold for a long time, tulips are the right choice. They remind people of beginnings. Beginnings? The words settled into his chest with unexpected weight. Elena gently gathered a few example arrangements, showing him how certain colors work together. Her hands moved with comfort and skill. She explained how flowers influenced emotions, and how certain combinations brought peace, hope, or steadiness. Adrian listened closely, more closely than he had listened to anyone in a long time. At one point, she lifted a bouquet of soft pink tulips, and her earrings swayed again. The golden petals caught the light, and Adrian felt that same haunting familiarity stirring. A memory from a faraway childhood, blurry and unreachable, trying to surface. He pushed the thought away. Not now. Elena lowered the bouquet. If you like, I can stop by the foundation tomorrow. I will take a look at the space and plan something that fits. Adrian nodded. I would appreciate that. She smiled gently. It is strange. Most people who come in here want flowers for celebrations, proposals, or anniversaries. You are the first person who asked for flowers to make a place feel alive again. For a moment, he did not know how to respond. She had unknowingly touched a part of him that had been dim for years. Before he left, she handed him a small arrangement wrapped in brown paper. This one is for your office, she said, just to see how it feels to have a little color nearby. He accepted it, and for the second time in 2 days, he found himself carrying tulips down a rainy Manhattan sidewalk. As he reached his building, the soft pink petals brushed against his wrist, and an odd feeling rose within him, a sense that something in his life had shifted, even if only by an inch. He did not believe in fate. He did not believe in signs. But as he stepped into the lobby of Hale Foundation, holding the small bouquet she made for him, he realized something undeniable. The walls around his heart, the ones he had built so carefully over the years, were beginning to crack. And Elena Hart, with her quiet voice and tulip earrings, had placed the first gentle fracture. The next morning arrived with a cold breeze sweeping across Manhattan, the kind that carried the scent of early spring despite the lingering chill. At Hale Foundation, the building glowed beneath the soft sunlight, polished glass reflecting the busy streets below. Inside, employees moved through the lobby with their usual brisk pace, unaware that something new was about to enter their world. At precisely 10 o'clock, the front doors opened and Elena stepped inside. She carried a small bag of tools and sample flowers, her presence gentle yet undeniably bright. The contrast between her warm energy and the stark marble floor was almost startling. Adrian was waiting near the reception desk. His suit was sharp as always, but his expression softened the moment he saw her. It was subtle but real. You made it, he said. I told you I would, she replied with a small smile. He guided her through the lobby, watching as her eyes took in every detail, the towering pillars, the echoing high ceiling, the coldness that lived somewhere between the stone and the silence. This place feels heavy, she said quietly. He paused. Heavy how? Like people walk in carrying more than they can speak about. She turned toward him. Flowers cannot fix everything, but they can remind people that not all things are sharp and cold. There it was again, her gentle way of seeing through things he did not say. Adrian nodded. That is exactly why I asked you to come. She moved through the space with care, holding different tulip colors toward the light, assessing how the morning sun touched each shade. Pink for hope, yellow for warmth, white for clarity. She was in her own world, yet somehow making the entire lobby softer with each step. While she worked, Adrian felt his phone buzz in his pocket. A notification from the restoration team. The footage from his childhood home, the one lost in a fire, was finally ready. He froze, breath caught in his chest. For years, he had avoided this moment. But something about Elena being here, arranging tulips in the lobby of his foundation, gave him the strange courage to face the past he had buried under layers of responsibility and silence. I need to check something in my office, he said. Please take your time. She nodded. I will be here. Adrian walked to the elevator, feeling the weight of old memories press into his shoulders. When the doors closed, the silence felt too close, too intimate. By the time he reached his office on the 31st floor, he could feel his heartbeat thudding against his ribs. The restoration team had sent a single video file. He clicked it. The screen flickered. A smoky image came into focus. The wooden beams of the small house, flames licking the edges of the doorway, a faint sound of a young boy coughing. Him, 12 years old, trapped in the burning house he had never spoken about to anyone outside his family. Then another figure appeared. A small girl, her hair tied back, face smudged with ash, eyes wide with fear yet determined. She ran toward him. She grabbed his arm. She pulled with all her strength. Adrian felt his pulse pound as the girl turned toward the camera for just 1 second. Enough for him to see the earrings. Small, golden, shaped like tulips. The same earrings Elena wore every day. The breath left his body. It was her. She was the one who had pulled him out of the flames when everyone else was too late. She was the reason he survived that night. She was the reason he grew up, built a company, stood here breathing. A soft knock on the door jolted him back. He quickly paused the video and turned in his chair. Elena peeked in. I am sorry. They told me I could find you here. And her tulip earrings caught the office light exactly the same way they had shimmered in that old recording. Adrian swallowed hard, every memory colliding with the present. How was the lobby? He managed to ask. It is changing, she said. A little bit of color can open a place up. She gave him that warm, effortless smile again, completely unaware of the truth he had just uncovered. Completely unaware that she had once saved his life. Adrian tried to steady his breathing. He had spent years building walls around himself, walls made of loss and fear and silence. But now, those walls were cracking far faster than he could control. As she stood there, framed by sunlight and softness, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. If he told her the truth now, he would lose her. And if he stayed silent, he risked losing himself. For the rest of the afternoon, Adrian tried to steady himself, but the truth he had uncovered played in a constant loop in his mind. Every time Elena walked past his office with a bouquet of tulips, every time he heard her gentle voice drifting through the lobby, the memory of that small girl pulling him from the flames tightened around him like an invisible hand. He had spent years convincing himself that no one in this world truly cared for him without motive. Yet the girl who saved him had done so without knowing his name, without knowing who he would become. And she was here now, arranging flowers in his building, completely unaware of the connection between them. When Elena finished her arrangements, she stepped back and admired her work. The lobby looked different, lighter, softer, alive in a way it had never been before. The workers who passed by paused, offering small smiles they did not even realize they were giving. Adrian watched her from a distance, his heart tightening. A part of him wanted to walk over, tell her everything, let the truth spill out. Another part of him, larger, louder, knew what would happen if he did. She would feel obligated. She would think he hired her out of gratitude, not genuine interest. She would step away to avoid the burden of being the source of his survival. For a man who had spent his life drowning in silence, this was a new kind of fear. A fear of losing someone before he even had the courage to hold on. Later that evening, when she gathered her things to leave, she searched for him in the lobby. Her gaze found him near the entrance. Thank you for today, she said. I will come back tomorrow to finish the upstairs arrangement. He nodded. You did more than I expected. She laughed softly. Flowers tend to do that. But her smile faded when she noticed something in his expression. Distance, tension, a slight stiffness in the way he held himself. Are you all right? She asked gently. Adrian looked away for a moment, struggling to find the right words. Just a long day. She tilted her head, reading him the same way she read the colors of her flowers. It is more than that. You feel heavier than yesterday. The accuracy of her observation struck him again. She noticed too much. She saw too deeply. Elena, he said quietly, there are things I cannot explain yet. She waited. Patient, open, not demanding answers. But he could not give her any, not now. Not when the truth could shift everything between them before anything had even begun. So he took a small step back, physically and emotionally. I should let you go. You must be tired. Something in her face flickered concern, confusion, maybe even disappointment, but she nodded. Good night, Adrian. He watched her walk out into the cool evening air, her silhouette moving past the windows as the lights from passing cars glowed against the glass. When the doors closed behind her, the silence returned. But it felt different now. It felt like something was slipping through his fingers. The next few days followed a slow, aching rhythm. Elena arrived at the foundation with fresh flowers and gentle warmth, but Adrian found himself keeping distance. Not coldness, never coldness, but space. Space he thought would protect her. Space he thought would keep the truth hidden long enough for him to understand what he felt. But the distance only made her unsure. She began to move more carefully around him, as if stepping on delicate ground. Her eyes searched his face for something he was too afraid to show. Her hands trembled slightly when she placed flowers in the lobby, a small sign he noticed but pretended not to. She was trying to understand him. He was trying not to hurt her. And between them, something fragile began to strain. One afternoon, as she finished the last arrangement on the mezzanine level, she found him standing near the railing, looking down at the lobby with a distant gaze. Adrian, she said softly, did I do something wrong? His chest tightened. No, you did nothing wrong. Then why do I feel like you are pulling away from me? He had no answer he could give her. She waited a long moment, letting the silence speak for him. Then she nodded slowly, pain flickering behind her gentle expression. I just wanted to help, she said. But if being here is making things worse, I can step back. The words struck him more deeply than he expected. But he could not reach for her. He could not pull her close. Not when the truth still sat between them like a living shadow. Elena, he whispered, please understand. I am not avoiding you. I am avoiding something I am not ready to face. She held his gaze for a moment longer, then lowered her eyes. Good night, Adrian, she said quietly. And this time, when she walked away, he felt the distance more sharply than ever. He wanted to stop her. He wanted to break the silence. But fear, old powerful fear, kept him frozen in place. The walls around his heart were cracking, but he still did not know if he was ready to let them fall. The distance between them grew slowly but unmistakably. By the end of the week, even the employees of Hale Foundation felt it. Adrian's steps were quieter, his replies shorter, and there was a heaviness in his presence that had not been there before. Elena felt it too. Every day she arrived with new arrangements, hoping the warmth of the flowers would bring clarity to whatever he was struggling with. But each time she glanced in his direction, she found him looking away, locked inside thoughts he refused to share. By Friday morning, the air felt tight with something unspoken. She finished her last bouquet and placed it carefully in the lobby, then looked up to the mezzanine level. Adrian was standing there, leaning on the railing, trying to look composed, but she could sense the tension wrapped around him. Before she could call out to him, her phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again and again. 3 messages, then 5, then more. She frowned and opened the first notification, and everything inside her collapsed. Her name, right there, on the front page of a major news site, lines blasted in bold. Local florist exposed as insider source, damaging Hale Foundation reputation. Unnamed tipster claims she is tied to land acquisition controversy. Suspicious connection between billionaire Adrian Hale and small-town flower shop owner. Within minutes, dozens of smaller outlets copied the headline. Social media exploded with speculation and accusations. People reposted her photos, sometimes from the flower shop, sometimes from the foundation building, twisting her smile into something untrustworthy. Her stomach twisted as she read the comments. Strangers calling her a liar, others calling her a manipulator, some accusing her of seducing a millionaire for profit. None of it true. Not a word of it remotely close to the person she was. Her vision blurred. The phone nearly slipped from her hands. She turned toward the lobby doors just as a group of people outside began to gather, cameras raised, voices rising. Paparazzi had descended on the quiet street faster than she could process what was happening. Elena, they shouted through the glass. Is it true you leaked confidential documents? Are you in a relationship with Adrian Hale? How much did they pay you to sabotage the project? Smile for the camera. Her breath caught in her throat. The world spun. She ran out the side exit, heart pounding, trying to escape the cameras chasing her like a pack of hungry shadows. When she reached her shop, she stopped dead. The door was cracked open. The windows were shattered. Inside, The flower buckets were overturned, petals scattered across the floor like pieces of a broken painting. Her tulips, her mother's favorite flower, were crushed beneath muddy footsteps. Her hands trembled as she stepped inside. The place that had always felt safe and warm now looked destroyed, violated. A note was taped to the counter. She pulled it off with shaking fingers. Stop pretending to be innocent. She sank to the floor, unable to breathe. The weight of fear, humiliation, and helplessness pressed down on her until she felt she might break apart completely. In the middle of that collapse, she received one more message. Not from the news, not from strangers. From Adrian. Elena, I heard what happened. I am coming right now. Her heart twisted at the words. But another feeling rose too: confusion, doubt, fear. If she saw him now, she would shatter. She could not face him covered in dust and broken petals. She could not stand there knowing the world believed she had betrayed him. And more painfully, she could not understand why he had kept his distance all week. She could not decide which hurt more. Before he arrived, she gathered a few belongings, stepped outside through the back alley, and disappeared into the night. She did not tell anyone where she was going. She just walked until the city lights grew faint behind her. When Adrian reached the shop, he froze. The destruction, the shattered glass, the crushed flowers. Elena, he called out, voice cracking for the first time in years. No answer, only silence. He looked around desperately, but she was gone, vanished into the city, carrying wounds he did not know how to heal. He closed his eyes, fighting the ache building in his chest. He wanted to explain everything. He wanted to tell her the truth. But he could not without unraveling the secrets connected to her past, his past, and the fire that shaped both of their lives. For the first time since childhood, Adrian Hale felt the unmistakable terror of losing someone who had become the light in the life built from shadows. And that fear, old, deep, and overwhelming, pressed against him with a force he could no longer ignore. Elena spent the next day moving from place to place, carrying only a small bag and the weight of a world that had turned against her overnight. She stayed in a quiet guest house far from the city center, hoping the storm in the media would pass. But the messages did not stop. More articles, more accusations, more strangers attacking her name as if they knew the story of her life. By evening, the pressure grew unbearable. She left the guest house, pulling her coat tight around her shoulders, hoping the fresh air might calm her shaking thoughts. But she had barely walked 2 blocks when she noticed shadows behind her. Voices, footsteps, then the sudden glare of camera lights. There she is. Stop walking, Elena. We need answers. Otto 1. Why did you leak the documents? Did you destroy your own shop to get sympathy? Are you hiding from Adrian Hale? She backed away, heart racing. Please, leave me alone. But they followed, shouting over one another, their voices rising like a storm behind her. She tried to turn down a side street, but the rain began to fall, a thin drizzle at first, then a steady, cold sheet that made the sidewalk slick beneath her boots. Her breath fogged in the night air as she hurried across the street. The paparazzi pressed closer. She looked over her shoulder, and in that single distracted moment, her foot slipped on the wet pavement. A car heading down the sloping road swerved, its tires screeching against the asphalt. Headlights flashed white across her eyes. Time slowed. Then someone shouted her name. Elena. Arms wrapped around her from behind. A body collided with hers, turning her away from the oncoming vehicle. The impact knocked the air from her lungs as both of them crashed onto the rain-soaked street. Her shoulder hit the ground first, but the weight shielding her absorbed the worst of it. She blinked through the blur of rain and headlights until the shape above her came into focus. Adrian. His breath was uneven, his hair soaked, his suit drenched by the downpour. Rain slid down his face, but his eyes were clear, full of fear and relief all at once. Are you hurt? He asked, voice raw. I am fine, she managed. You should not be here. I had to find you. Before she could respond, a sharp metallic sound clinked beside her. She looked down. A necklace had slipped from around his neck during the fall. A small round pendant rested in a shallow puddle of rainwater, spinning slowly. Her breath caught. It was not just any pendant. A tulip, delicately carved, golden, warm even under the streetlights. Her fingertips trembled as she picked it up. She looked at it, then at him, then at her own earrings, identical tulips glimmering beneath the rain. It felt like the world narrowed to a single point. Adrian, she whispered, voice barely holding, where did you get this? He looked away for a moment, as if struggling with a truth too heavy for words. Rain streamed down his cheeks like shattered starlight. It is the only thing that survived the fire, he said quietly. The fire from my childhood home. Her pulse stumbled. The fire? In the countryside? The one that took your parents? He nodded. I was 12. I would not have survived if someone had not pulled me out. Elena's breath shook. Her knees weakened. She swallowed hard as the truth rose like a tide inside her. That girl, she whispered, she wore tulip earrings. Water dripped from her hair, her coat, her trembling hands. Everything around her disappeared. Cars, lights, rain, noise falling away until only the memory remained. A little wooden house engulfed in flames, a frightened little boy coughing in the smoke, and her 8-year-old self pulling him toward the door, giving him her mother's precious tulip charm to calm him. She pressed a hand to her lips. That girl was me. Adrian closed his eyes, a mix of awe, grief, and realization running through him like lightning. I know. Her voice cracked. Why did you not tell me? Because I was afraid, he said. Afraid you would think I came into your life because I owed you something. Afraid you would step away before I could understand what I felt for you. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. I thought you were avoiding me because I did something wrong. He shook his head firmly. You did nothing wrong. I was the one who hid. I was the one who let fear speak for me. And a long silence hung between them, full of everything they had never said, everything they had lost, and everything they had just discovered. Finally, Elena whispered, I do not know what to do with this truth. Adrian touched the pendant gently in her hand. Then let us face it together. But the rain kept falling, and the night remained heavy, and the truth now uncovered left them both standing on the edge of something neither of them knew how to navigate. For now, all they had was the echo of the past, and the fragile hope that the future might still hold warmth. The rain eased by the time they reached the quiet side street. Emergency lights reflected off the puddles, painting the night in soft flashes of red and white. A medic checked the scrape on Elena's shoulder, assuring her it was only a shallow bruise. Adrian refused treatment for himself, insisting he was fine, even though his breathing still carried the unsteady rhythm of the fall. When they were finally alone under the awning of a closed cafe, silence settled around them like a fragile shell. The street was empty. The storm had passed. But inside Elena, a different kind of storm had only just begun. She held the golden tulip pendant in her palm, the identical echo of the earrings she wore. You kept this, she said softly, staring at the symbol of a past she had not known belonged to both of them. All these years, Adrian nodded, rainwater dripping from his hair and coat. It was the only thing that made the fear stop that night. I never let go of it. Her fingers closed tightly around the pendant, as if trying to hold on to something solid while the ground shifted beneath her. And you remember me? She whispered. No, he answered honestly. Not fully. But when I saw your earrings the first time I walked into your shop, something inside me recognized them. Recognized you. And his voice carried sincerity. Warm, raw, vulnerable. It should have comforted her. But instead, it twisted in her chest like a quiet ache. Elena stepped back, taking in a slow breath. So all this time, the reason you came into the shop, the reason you hired me, the reason you stayed close, was it because you knew I saved you? Adrian's eyes widened with disbelief. No, Elena, that is not why. But how would I know? She looked away, blinking back the sting in her eyes. Everything happened so fast. The scandal, the destruction of my shop. And you kept your distance. You would not look at me. You would not talk to me. Not until the truth came out tonight. The night felt colder suddenly, even though the rain had stopped. Elena, I stayed away because I was afraid, he said, stepping closer. Afraid I would mess this up. Afraid I would overwhelm you. Afraid the truth would hurt us. Her voice trembled. But it did hurt us. And once that truth settled between them, she took another step back. Her breath broke in small, uneven pieces. I do not know what is real, Adrian. I do not know if you care about me, or if you care because of what happened years ago. I care about you, he said firmly. Not because you saved me, because you changed me. She shook her head gently, unable to let the words settle in her heart. But how do I trust that? How do I trust that what you feel is love and not gratitude wrapped in confusion? He opened his mouth to answer, but she lifted a hand. "I need time," she whispered. Those 3 words hit him harder than the car ever could. "Elena!" His voice broke. He had never heard his own name sound so helpless. But she was already stepping away, her silhouette dim under the awning shadow. "When I helped you as a child, I did not expect anything in return," she said softly. "I did not even know your name. You were just a scared boy who needed someone." She looked down at the pendant in her hand. But now everything feels tangled. He reached out, instinctively, desperately, but she placed the pendant back into his palm before he could touch her. "I cannot build something on a foundation of 'I owe you,'" she said. "Even if the feeling is real, it is too close to the edge and I am too afraid to fall." A tear slipped down her cheek, fragile as the tulip petals she loved so much. She turned slowly, walking into the soft glow of the streetlights. No running, no panic, just quiet heartbreak. Adrian watched her leave, unable to move, unable to call out her name. The pendant sat heavy in his hand, the last piece of a past that connected them and the first piece of a future that now felt painfully uncertain. He wanted to follow her. He wanted to explain everything. He wanted to promise that his heart was his own, not shaped by gratitude or destiny. But the words refused to form. Only silence filled his lungs. For the first time in many years, Adrian Hale felt truly powerless. Not because he lacked answers, not because he was confused, but because the woman who had saved him twice, once from fire and once from emotional numbness, was now walking away, believing she had been nothing more than a piece of his past. And he had no one to blame but himself. The days that followed moved with a quiet ache neither of them had the strength to name. Manhattan carried on with its usual rush, but for Adrian, every hour felt slower, heavier, as if the city itself had lost its color. He went to the flower shop twice more, hoping she might return, but the doors stayed locked and the windows remained dark. The crushed petals had long been swept away, yet the emptiness of the space clung to him like a shadow. At the foundation, employees noticed the change in him. He worked, but without focus. He spoke, but with hesitation. The tulip pendant never left his pocket. He carried it with the weight of every moment he had failed to speak the truth. Meanwhile, Elena stayed in a small cottage outside the city, surrounded by quiet fields and early spring wind. Each morning, she walked among the trees, trying to steady her thoughts. She replayed every conversation, every glance, every silence between them. She tried to convince herself the distance was necessary, that she needed clarity before returning to the life she knew. But the truth, that deep, unmistakable truth, waited quietly at the edge of her heart. She did not regret saving him as a child. She did not regret meeting him. What she feared was the possibility that everything between them had been shaped by a moment she barely remembered. On the 4th morning, a delivery arrived. A plain envelope with her name written in simple, careful handwriting. No sender listed, no message on the cover. Inside was a folder, thick, bound with a ribbon. Her breath caught as she opened it. It was the land project, the entire plan for the redevelopment surrounding her flower shop. She recognized the sketches, the zoning maps, the list of properties. But what stunned her were the annotations. Pages and pages of handwritten notes in Adrian's distinct handwriting. Preserve this block. This shop must remain. Find alternative funding to protect her business. Non-negotiable. The flower shop stays where it is. Do not pressure the owner under any circumstance. And every page carried the same message in different forms. He had fought for her, silently, fiercely, consistently, long before the scandal, long before the truth of the fire came out, long before he ever realized she was the girl who saved him. Her throat tightened as she ran her fingers over the notes. There was no gratitude in these words, no obligation, only care, only quiet protection, only love. A soft breeze drifted through the open window, carrying with it the faint scent of early tulips. Something inside her shifted something gentle, something brave. By late afternoon, she was on the bus back to Manhattan. The moment she stepped into the city again, she felt the familiar hum beneath her feet. She walked with purpose, her heartbeat steady, her mind clearer than it had been in days. As the sun dipped behind the tall buildings, she reached the place she knew he often retreated to, the rooftop garden of Hale Foundation. Rows of tulips, planted in long beds, swayed lightly in the wind. The petals glowed gold, pink, and white beneath the soft lights. Adrian stood near the railing, facing the skyline. He did not hear her footsteps at first. His shoulders were tense, his posture rigid, as if he had been holding his breath for too long. When he finally turned around, the world seemed to stop. "Elena," he said quietly, disbelief and hope tangled together in his voice. She stepped closer. "I read the project notes." His eyes widened slightly. "You fought for my shop," she continued, her voice trembling in the most honest way. "You protected it before you knew anything about me. You protected it even when you were hurting." "I did," he said, "because it mattered to you. That alone made it important." Her eyes softened. "You did not love me because of what happened in the fire." "No," he said, taking a cautious step closer. "I loved you because you walked into my life with warmth I had forgotten existed. I loved you because you saw me before you ever knew my past." The breeze lifted her hair as she looked up at him. The tulip earrings glimmered under the lights, the same soft glow they held in the old footage. She took a slow, steady breath. "I was afraid," she whispered, "afraid I was just a memory to you. Afraid the past mattered more than the present." He shook his head gently. "The past brought us together, but the present is where I choose you." The words settled in her heart like sunlight breaking through clouds. She stepped forward and took his hand. His fingers tightened around hers, as if he had been waiting for this moment longer than he had dared to admit. Surrounded by tulips, beneath the soft glow of the evening sky, they stood not as two people tied by destiny, but as two hearts choosing each other with clear, steady courage. For the first time in a long time, the city felt warm. And for Adrian Hale, the man who once forgot how to love, this was the moment he finally remembered.